Colonel Daniel Davis, Senior Fellow for the Defense Priorities, and Nathan Sales, former Ambassador at Large and Counterterror Coordinator under President Trump. Let's start with you, Colonel Davis. Again, Peter's right. You know, Americans, they hear Houthis, they know it's trouble. They probably don't know much about this Yemen-based group that's been launching a civil war against the Yemeni government now for many, many years. What's your take on what you're hearing so far tonight?
I tell you, Laura, I'm really concerned on a number of fronts. Number one, I want to know what's the plan here? What is the expectation? What is the end state? Where are we trying to go with this? Because if we think that firing a few missiles is going to cow the Houthis and they're going to stop doing what they're going to do and they're going to be deterred, I mean, that should be eliminated after we've been seeing the failure of all these strikes to eliminate, deter the Iran-backed groups against our troops in Iraq and in Syria and elsewhere. And we've already taken out their boats. That's not going to do it. This has every chance to escalate to a higher level because the Houthis have expressly said if we attack them on their territory, they're going to start attacking Americans and American interest in the region. What is our plan for that? And look, this is a potential strike that could draw us into a war. And I think the president owes it to the American people to explain what he's doing to make sure we want to go into a war. I don't. But I'd like to hear from the White House on exactly what the plan is and how this follows American law and the Constitution, which it doesn't.
Yeah, well, again, calling a lid while we're launching military strikes with the UK in the Middle East seems to me like mind-bogglingly outrageous. But Nathan, Peter just mentioned this, but among the first moves that Biden made back in February 2021, right after he was inaugurated, was to officially lift the designation of the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen as a global terror organization. Now, how idiotic does that look tonight?
Yeah, Laura, it's a real head scratcher. During the Trump administration, we were willing to call a spade a spade. And so we said, you know, the Houthis are launching terrorist attacks against oil infrastructure, against our allies, against ships. If it looks like a terrorist, it's a terrorist. And so we put them on the list. The Biden folks, and let me tell you, we got crucified in the media for doing that. We were called baby killers because people said this is going to prevent the delivery of humanitarian assistance. Well, things look a lot different today. And it's kind of ironic, Laura, that, you know, the president is now engaged in combat against a group that he removed from the terrorist list. So that's a bit of a puzzle to think through.
I mean, but when you think about this again, the head of the Houthi group came out in a video just hours ago saying, you strike us and we're coming after you. We also, Colonel Davis, have an open border right now. We know terrorists have exploited the border. We've caught some of them. Who knows who's in this country now? Another reason why we need a total change in leadership. We're going to get into this with Molly and Kellyanne in a moment, but this is a dangerous situation we're setting up.
Well, it is. And unfortunately, this thing is long in the building. And so there's no easy answers here. There's no obvious solutions. But I do share your concerns about the fact that there has been, you can't even call it a porous border. It's just been wide open. And God only knows who all's coming in. And there could be, you know, sleeper agents in there right now. I don't have any knowledge whether there are, but there is a very real possibility that that is. Somebody wants to harm our country, could already be here.
Nathan, is it a point of interest that Germany and France did not choose to join this effort tonight? Obviously, the two larger economies in the EU let the UK and the US handle this.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure that if other countries from Europe were to participate, that would actually be a good thing, because it tends to be the lowest common denominator response. The U.S. and the UK, we've got some reps. We know how to take terrorists off the battlefield. And so, I'm pretty comfortable with the Eisenhower and its British counterpart leading this. Now, what concerns me, Laura, we've been telegraphing all day the fact that these strikes were coming. If there is a Houthi terrorist in Yemen, for hours. If there is a Houthi terrorist who was surprised by this, like, they've got to be the dumbest terrorist in the world. It would surprise me if we actually managed to eliminate any of their leaders or the people who are responsible for these attacks on Americans and on commercial shipping. It looks like the administration was telegraphing this strike precisely to avoid casualties on the part of the Houthis.
Now, we want a successful mission here, but to that point, Colonel Davis, it does remind me a little bit of what happened with our withdrawal from Afghanistan. I mean, we had our service personnel standing out there. They were sitting ducks, and we lost precious American lives because of that. Now, we don't think that kind of thing's going to happen, but again, telling the enemy what we're doing, where we are, where we're standing, when we're coming. I mean, they told us, I think, within about 15 minutes that we knew it was coming.
Yeah, and that's one of my enduring concerns out here is that we have all those troops that are just sitting out in the middle of the desert in Iraq and Syria the enemy has, detailed coordinates of exactly where they are, and it's not that hard to shoot them and add to it if they want to. But you know what, the other thing that I haven't heard, well, we haven't heard anything from the White House, but I dang sure want to hear quickly what next, because what happens if the Houthis make good on this threat and they do hit some of our interests, they do hit some of our people somewhere else, they do strike somewhere in the border. Now what are you going to do? Because now we have to escalate up even higher. Now we're taking what is a problem in the Red Sea and it could be drawing us into a war, which God only knows where that could go. And we do not need a new war.
No, and Nathan, right on cue, given my last question to you, Politico just reported that the U.S. and the UK did have support from Australia, the Netherlands, Bahrain, and Canada in these strikes. But again, no France and Germany. We don't know the extent of their support. Could be intelligence support. We obviously have the hardware, and we should have the intel support, but maybe we should stop spying on Americans and focus more on the real threats. But does that coalition give you some comfort, Nathan?
I think so. These are countries that have a lot of skin in the game. Our Fifth Fleet is based in Bahrain, in the region, so they're obviously going to be a key player. Australia and the other countries you mentioned, like these are some of our closest allies. They have excellent intelligence collection capabilities, but really what they add above all is the support of diplomatic heft. It's good to know that you've got allies in your corner who are prepared to support you, even if that just means moral support. Though, of course, like the more assets, the more intelligence information they can share and devote to this mission, the better.
Well, again, this also reminds us, Colonel Davis, of why it's so important that we knew where our defense secretary was and that the White House was in close coordination with him. I mean, I go back to what I said, a few days ago. The real story there was that apparently he was so insignificant to daily briefings, they weren't even looking for him. I mean, I worked in the Reagan administration. I'm really dating myself. But Cap Weinberger, if he was missing for 15 minutes, they'd know about it. They didn't know about this for 4 days. What message does that send our adversaries? Not a good one.
Yeah, and I think it's even worse than that because, look, this is exactly what on our deep dive show a couple of days ago, this is what I talked about. If something unexpected happens and the president needs to talk to the SecDef right now, he's AWOL. He's not even there, so you can't even reach him. It's unconscionable that he would have not told the president or his deputy where he was for 2 days, and this is exactly the reason why.
All right, gentlemen, please stay with us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.